Today I want to show you how to get the look of a hand quilting stitch using the Janome M17. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst of Chatterbox Quilts, and you can get the look of hand quilting by using a sewing machine. Yes, you can, and I want to show you how to do that, the settings you need to set on the sewing machine, and the physical kind of things you need to get this hand quilting look. So first off, what does it look like? Because that's really what we want to see, isn't it? Well, I've done a little sample here, just a little quilt block, and I was doing some quilting near the ditch and in the ditch in some areas, and just to see what it looked like. I was making some adjustments as I went along, but this is an example of what it looks like. Here's the front, here's the back. I had already done some quilting on this, it's where you see the double line here, but you can look at some of these. So you can see what it looks like and what a nice stitch it gives you. But there are some things you have to do to set up the Janome M17 to get this stitch. So let's talk about that first, shall we? So what we need to set up is the needle plate. Of course, we always need to be concerned with the needle plate, so we need to make sure we have our zigzag needle plate in. You also want to make sure that you have the blue dot bobbin case in. Trust me, it's in there, and that is the additional purchase that you can make to get that blue dot bobbin case. It has less tension in it, which is what we're looking for in this technique. Also, I am using the AD foot. Now, the machine tells me to use the F foot, and I've decided to ignore it. So stick around with me until the end of the video, and I'm going to show you why I'm using this foot, and I'm also going to give you some other examples of when you might want to use this stitch. So keep watching, and I'll give that information to you at the end of the video. Now, what else am I going to use, I should say? I'm going to be using some invisible thread. I like to use the Superior Threads Mono Polys. It's a polyester thread, but it's clear. And what is actually happening with this technique is that the thread you want to see is what you're going to put in the bobbin. You'll see a bright kind of fluorescent pink. It's what I'm going to be using in this example. That's what you're going to see. The monopoly or invisible thread is going to go in the top of the machine. And then, of course, you also have to choose the right stitch on the Janome M17 to make this work, right? So let's do that next, shall we? What we're going to do is make sure we're in our home screen. We're going to go to the sewing application mode. Then we are going to go into our quilting area, and we're going to go to the second page, and you'll see it says Hand Look QU. So that's your Hand Look quilting stitch. There are a variety of them, but we're going to work with the Hand Look one. So this is where you can see the F foot that I'm going to ignore, because sometimes you can do that. And there's a reason why I'm doing it in this particular situation. It's going to work just fine. Something else I want to bring your attention to is the stitches that you see there. The default stitch tension is 8.0. Wow, that seems really high, doesn't it? Well, why is it doing that? Because to me, that means that's the top tension, by the way, right? So that means that it's going to have a really strong pull on that top thread and not very much in the bobbin. And of course, we already know using that blue dot bobbin case gives us that lower tension anyway. And why is that? It's because we want that invisible thread that's in the top to pull up the bobbin thread. We want the bobbin thread to show on the top of our quilt, something we never ever want to usually see, right? But in this case, we do. So whatever thread you want to see, whatever colored thread you want to see, that's what's in your bobbin, okay? And as I said, I've already got this nice fluorescent pink for you to show you in this particular example. Now you can play around with the adjustments, and you can play around with the stitch length. The stitch length is set to 2.5. I am going to adjust it to 5 because I want to make sure that you can actually see this. And of course, with any new technique that you're doing, you always want to practice first before you put it on your real project. And that's what I'm going to do next. So I have a practice sandwich here that I'm just going to pull out. And I'm using some black fabric so you can see the thread really easily, and I have to get my glasses on here so I can see what I'm doing. So again, just to reiterate, I've got the monopoly, the invisible thread, which is always so hard for me to even see. It's down here, I can see it through the needle, and I've got this hot pink kind of in the bobbin. So when you go along with this, you want to go slow. You don't need to go super fast, and as I said, now is the time to make adjustments in the tension. So let's start and see what we get. I'll just do a little bit of stitching. I'm going to lock my stitches, cut my thread, and see what we have here. Okay, so here we are with the tension is at 8, the length is at 5. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. In the back, you're going to see, you know, you don't see that invisible thread in the back, you just see the thread. It's fine, but it gives a nice finish on the back as well. And on the front, it looks pretty good, right? Unless you get really close up, you really can't see that invisible thread, hence the name. And I'm using the clear on this. I could have used, it comes in different color smoke, I could have used that. If I'm working on dark fabric like I am here, I would probably use the smoke color because you'll see it even less. So this is looking pretty good. So I think I'm happy with that. I could go forward and work with this on my quilt project. Now, I did tell you at the beginning that I was going to talk about why I'm using the foot I am, and also I wanted to give you examples of when you might want to use this. So let's talk about the foot first, okay? Now, the reason I like to use this foot, either this foot, the AD foot, or you can use the SD foot. This also comes with the Janome M17, and that's your stitch in the ditch foot where it's got that guide that you can run in the ditch. So for example, when I'm using this type of project and going to go in the ditch here, or next to the ditch, where's mine in the ditch? I shouldn't be able to see it, right? Okay, so in the ditch here, when I'm going close to the ditch there, I like to use that SD foot. Works really well. So I might want to use that, but either one of them that I'm using is going on to this AccuFeed Flex holder. And the reason I'm using that is because of this, okay? This is my guide bar, my quilting guide bar. And it fits in the side of the foot, okay? And depending on what I'm working on, why I like to use this is because it will let me do even spacing away from either a seam line or perhaps in this case, a previously stitched line. So for example, if I want to use this, okay, I will put that down. I just need to adjust a little bit here to get it where I want it. Okay, that's pretty good. So if I want to go this distance away from this previously stitched line, I can just adjust the guide bar back and forth, get it down that line and follow it right along. I know I don't have a very long line here right now. So I could do, you know, another line here and I could keep that bar there and continue to add lines that are all evenly stitched the same distance away from each other. So that is why I like to use this foot. Now, what else can I use this stitch on besides a quilt, right? Well, there's lots of different things. Let me show you another example. And while I didn't use it on the quilt sandwich, if I'm working on something like this may be hard for you to see because it's white, but this is a little hanky. Okay, if you like to collect vintage linens, hankies, or napkins, that type of thing, you can add this hand look to them. So what I did in this case is I did put some stabilizer behind. This is tearaway stabilizer. You could use water soluble. And what I did is I drew a line where I wanted that stitching to be. I then used the hand look stitch. And again, if I wanted to put something, I could use the edge of my foot too, if I wanted to be very close. But if I wanted to put something further in, I could use that guide bar using that AD foot again, and I could run a second line along here. So this is great for jazzing up kind of some of these vintage linens, giving it an old-fashioned look as well. And obviously, this is friction pen. Obviously, I'm going to take that out, so you're not going to see the pink at all. You're just going to see the blue line, which is quite nice. And I would probably go along and do maybe 3 sides because I do have a decorative edge on the one corner there. So it just kind of gives this a little bit of new life. But it still looks like hand quilting, so keeping with the look of the piece. Something else you can do. You could also use this stitch on cuffs or collars. If you're a sewist, that would work very well too. So if you have the Janome M17 or another machine that may have this hand look stitch on it, hand look quilting stitch on it, I encourage you to give it a try. It looks very nice, it works really well, and I'm sure you're going to be pleased with the results. Thanks so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. And for more helpful quilting information, be sure to check out my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.